All right. So, hello, developers and developer adjacent people. Welcome to what we're calling the Rookery podcast. A rookery, for those who don't know, is a collection of penguins.
Oh my god.
And our first guests, including myself, are soon-to-be graduates of the General Assembly program in the Software Engineering Immersive, the Penguin Group. So this is the Rookery. We're going to interview software developers, both upcoming and seasoned, and get what's going on in their lives. I'm your host, Donovan Galloway, and today I'm joined by my good friends, Seb and John. Would you guys care to introduce yourselves?
John.
Hey. Okay. Well, I'm probably one of the more junior and experienced as far as developers concerned. I have some experience in some tech adjacent roles. Decided to do this bootcamp because I want to build things. I want to build interesting things. I can't even explain how much I want to deep dive into anything science related or tech related. I just want to build all the things. At this point, yeah, man, I'm ready to hop in this digital ocean, so to speak, pun intended, maybe not intended, depending. I don't want to get into legal troubles with that, but yeah, the whole ocean of what it means to be a developer and to build cool things in tech, I'm ready for it.
Absolutely. Love it.
That's going to be some heat. And for me, I'm just lonely old Seb. I'm coming from my main it's not even a profession, but my main skill set is music production, rapping, and just everything within the music space. You know, most genres, cyberpunk, drum and bass, EDM, do all that. I'm also a video editor. I make my own videos, do all that stuff. I record myself. And I came into the coding space about, I want to say when this cohort started about 2 or 3 months ago, and I've just been sucked in essentially. I want to learn as much as I can, as quick as possible, and put in as much work as I can just to make my life a little bit better. And I feel like coding has so many options. You can kind of apply coding to essentially everything. Music production, video editing, all that stuff is just really, really cool to see the connections you can make with coding. And I feel like this is going to be really dope, especially this podcast. See, we're already doing something with this coding experience. It's insane.
Man.
You know what's
crazy?
I think it's kind of funny. You both kind of said it. Coding starts as something that's oh, this would be a cool job, right? Oh, I know this market's underrepresented in terms of people need developers and there aren't enough developers and there are never enough developers, right? But then as you learn and get better at it, it becomes this just amazing thing, and it almost takes over your life in terms of just there's so much to learn and there's so much you feel like you can be doing, and there's so many different things you can be learning how to build and make and edit and change and contribute to, that it just becomes this all-consuming thing.
You didn't really explain yourself there, Donovan.
Well, that's because I'm the August host of this show. That being said, I'm also currently a junior dev. I'm running this podcast just to sort of chronicle everyone's journeys, starting with our own cohort for the bootcamp and then just going off into everything else. I was originally a self-taught programmer. I tried to learn C++ when I was 13. I failed miserably. It took me 3 months to even build a calculator. So I quit.
Damn.
I picked Python back up when I was 17, 18. I've built little things, but this is the first time I've really had a structured environment, and so I've really, it's just been killer for learning React and learning Express and things like that, and just deep diving into all of these things has been amazing. So that's me. That's who I am. People, I won't. This is the only introduction anyone will get is in episode 1.
Good. I mean, best time to start, absolutely. I guess.
Well,
do you? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, do you plan to carry over your Discord name into your developer brand?
That's a possibility. For anybody watching, my name in the Discord is Gandalf the Graying. off of off of a joke. I was helping everyone out within the first couple of weeks of the boot camp, and so I started getting called Gandalf, but instead of Gandalf the Grey or something like that, I thought about going Gandalf the Black, but I thought that was a little on the nose. So I went Gandalf with the graying because everyone's giving me gray hairs.
I mean, it's super appropriate, man. Like, I remember when I made that reference, like, all of a sudden, like, it became more and more true for the past 3 months, man.
It helps out. I've
to your, yeah, man, it works.
You have too many nicknames at this point. I call you Godovan.
I mean, it's a good brand to have. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, what I have for us tonight are just some topics of discussion. Obviously, we're all junior devs. What I wanted to get your guys' feedback on are just a few topics with what you're learning, what you're interested in, what your pain points are, things like that. So I guess the first thing, for those who don't know, General Assembly's bootcamp goes over full stack web dev, basic JavaScript, obviously, jQuery, obviously, and then typically React, sometimes Angular. Goes into Express, and then either Ruby on Rails or a Python backend like Django or Masonite. So we were coding in our immersive. We did React, and we did Masonite for that backend, as well as Express and Shopify Liquid, which has been really cool and a nice little mix. But for you guys, what are your favorites in terms of what we've used so far, or of any tech stacks that you've been working with outside of our class, if you've had time?
You want to go, John?
Well, I was just about to ask. You broke up on my end, so I was going to ask. You asked if what I was working on.
No, favorite technologies that you've worked on so
far. Honestly, as I'm really enjoying the Python unit so far. I don't know if it's been getting the reps in with JavaScript and React and doing learning the conventions and the syntax and all those things. But I found Python much easier to catch on to. I mean, granted, I did bare minimum studying of Python. But I'm particularly enthused in getting into the AI ML space. I'm ready for it, man. I'm really enthused about its potential and what we can build with it, even though, as Elon Musk says, it is a demon that we let out. But I mean, the future is now. I mean, we gotta take that demon and put it on a leash if we can.
For sure. That's funny. That's the same space I wanted to get into when I first signed up for the boot camp. I already had a Python background, so I thought about signing up for the data science immersive. But and we'll circle back so Seb can have a chance to answer the question, obviously. But it was one of the interesting things was looking at the data science space, not specifically ML or AI, but when you look at the entry barrier to that, there are so many people that I think move from a statistics background who are kind of like, yeah, I mean, I have this PhD in statistics and nobody's hiring statisticians because this is all done on, web and in Python now. So maybe I just learn 6 weeks of Python and become a data scientist. And so the space is really saturated with those sorts of requirements for like statistics and mathematics backgrounds or several years of software engineering experience. So I was really just looking at like in terms of like a very capitalist sort of view of like, okay, I finish an immersive. Can I get a job in data science that I want? I want a data engineer job, or ideally like machine learning or something like that. But those jobs, the only job I thought I was going to get after a brief search was data analyst, which wasn't really my interest. I'd rather build things for 3-4 years, work on my skills, work on just picking up some of these technologies by myself, and then just transition into data science later.
You cut out for us that last little bit.
Yeah.
Luckily, it'll be clear on my end because we're just hooked up directly to audio input. But
maybe like try taking off one of the noise removal or things, because we're good on our end, Okay. But yeah, I do. You want to repeat that last part for us?
Yeah. With the data science space, the last thing I want to do is just sit and do data analyst work for 2-3 years and hope that I'm going to get coding experience.
Yeah.
So what I looked to do is I was like, I'd rather build things for a couple of years and get my chops up and then transition into data afterwards. And where I actually want to go is machine learning and AI.
That's really smart, actually. I didn't even think like that. In terms of your original question, like, you guys seem to have like a more like objective set of goals, and I think that's really cool. I don't mean to discredit that. Like John said, I do enjoy Python, but I more enjoy the readability of it as opposed to anything else. I do like the very like intricate workings of JavaScript a bit more, because you have like I feel like I have more control in JavaScript. It could be because, you know, we spent like 3 units on it or whatever, but like the idea of JavaScript and like all these concepts that can be like really like can be so flexible. You know, you could do front end with JavaScript, especially. You could do back end. Python, you can only do back end, but it's still really cool, and it's really helpful just to see as like a transitioning point for me. Like, you know, I'm starting with JavaScript, I'm going to Python. It's just it's like, oh, okay, this works here, so it can work here too. If I just, oh, okay, now this works, you know. And it's just, like I said, I'm coming from I literally had no coding experience before this cohort, but so I know everything from a more conceptual standpoint. Like I think like my brain is like more creative, I'd say, but I had such a analytical mindset coming up, and I'm kind of bringing it back for this coding program. But like I see everything in concepts, you know. I see this, like if you have this problem, you're going to solve it using like this step and this step and this step. You know, you're trying to make a for loop. You gotta realize there's a limit to that loop, but you also want to create the loop. So there's like and that's just a basic sense, you know. Like with API calls and everything, you got to bring in this data, then you have to catch the data, then you have to use this data for something else. So sorry, that doesn't answer any of your question. I guess to answer your question would be, I'm really into React. It allows me to use those problem solving skills and like API calls. I don't know why I love API calls. And allow me to make something that I think like people can see, you know. And the speed of React is so cool to me that you just access something and then it's essentially one page. It rebuilds itself, comes back. It's kind of like a music production where you have all these tools at your disposal and you make something that people can interact with and see like for themselves. Not see, but you know, here they can interact with music in a way that you can, in a similar way where you could react with a website. Just with a website or an application, you're able to directly influence it, as opposed to music. Like I'd like to eventually create something where there's like an interactable music source that can be changed based on your mood. And like, because my whole thing is like mental health. That's my whole brand is like helping those who I believe want to feel better. My whole idea is I don't want anyone to feel like I did at some point. So this idea of coding like being so intricate, and you can like make people see your idea in a very like concrete way. I think that is so cool. I'm way off from that, but the concept of that to me is just amazing. And like JavaScript, React, that's what I feel my starting point will be visually, you know. Sorry, I kind of went off.
No,
but
that's wonderful.
No, that was awesome.
Yeah. I always. Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to add on to that. I completely agree, and I think one of the what's so cool so far is that like once you build your capability, like once you know how to code it, it gives you kind of a power. Like once you have a good idea, and like particularly that could solve a business problem or just any problem, like you are now empowered to solve it. You know, it allows it. It's one of the few skills that, you know, especially now that you can, you know, whichever problem that you can identify, you know, and think through the steps, man, you could solve it. You can you know, apply these things. And it's interesting how you said, you know, you think of it in these ways in your audio experience. Like I I was studying diesel engines for a while. So for me, I'm thinking about how these parts connect. How does this thing drive this thing to the next? How does this give it the propulsion to move forward? How do these things connect? What are these parts needed? And it's been interesting to kind of, it's interesting how each person's experience lends itself to coding. It's so expansive. It's like such a big space. It's almost infinite. I mean, it is at this point. It is. It's interesting. And yeah, no, I was just going to build off that. That was a really good point you made, Zeb.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love it because I always you kind of feel I always liken it to a fantasy setting like Harry Potter or any sort of thing where there's some magic system where you have to say something and you speak it into existence, and it only works if you do it a certain way, and you have to know all of the little things about it. And that's how it feels. It really feels like you sit down in front of a computer, and because of all, and obviously standing on the shoulders of giants and people who have taken, zeros and ones and going back to, Bletchley Park and Alan Turing in the radio factory making a Turing, making the Enigma breaking machine, and, C and coming up through assembly and then C and then object-oriented programming. Like, obviously, the fact that we can sit and type stuff in JavaScript and learn a language which is as close to English as any language has ever been, is incredible. Yeah. But at the same time, you still have that ability to, like, have an idea, want to solve a problem, type some magic words into a computer, and then have it output something which is exactly your intention, which is, I think, just sort of the coolest thing that I really hope never gets old.
Yeah. Like, everything is kind of engineering. Yeah. Like, I was just going to say, everything is engineering, but, software development, software engineering, that's like, you have this idea. And in music, you can have an idea and you can create something as close to it as you want. Like, you can go forever and then never get to that idea. With coding, you have this idea of, I want this to work this way. You can make that exact thing. And I think that's ridiculously cool. You gave that Harry Potter like example of like, this needs to work this way for the spell to work, and I think like that's really interesting. It got me thinking about Hunter x Hunter. I don't know if either of you have seen Hunter x Hunter, but in it, there's like these, John, you have?
Oh, no, I was saying not yet. I'm actually on my list.
It's my favorite anime. And one of the main reasons is they have this power system that you can do this, which counters this. And it's like a whole rock, paper, scissors thing. But in the end, like, you have to figure out a way to get past all of them. Like, you have to be specialized at this one thing, but like, you're versus a natural counter. What do you do? It's this whole idea of, like, you can completely beat anyone in Hunter x Hunter if you have this particular power system, and you have to do everything correctly to get to that point. In coding, you kind of have it's you against a computer in a way. Yeah. You kind of have to get past these problems that will always come up. You will always be against this like new, like, scarier opponent. You learn a new language. You think of this new idea. You're gonna have to find a way to beat this dude. In music, you may never have to do that. You can push yourself to be really, but you can push yourself to be like this like dude who's constantly trying to make things different. There's a bunch of musicians I can name off top like that, but I just think it's so, it's really cool. That example you gave just got me thinking about that. That was it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, this also kind of transitions into my next like sort of major question, which is, you guys, we're learning new things, constantly. But in terms of what you've already learned, and kind of just generally with coding, what are your kind of pain points with what you've learned so far? What things do you struggle with sort of consistently, or you wish weren't a certain way?
It's a good question.
I think, as rudimentary as it sounds, I've found that I never needed to kind of be as fast and as accurate in my typing as I ever have been before. And I found that it's tripped me up in syntax. So
Syntax
syntax,
is crazy.
the syntax thing is definitely has definitely caught me a lot, and I think file paths. I think when I'm installing one thing in one file and I'm realizing, oh, I accidentally installed this in the global scope, and I should have installed this in this local file or what have you. I'm probably using all the terms wrong at this point, but yeah, but I think that and I should have done a lot more of those basic coding challenges that we've been going over like ad nauseum at the past couple weeks. I think that would have been I think much more helpful for me. I think when Alex references the pre-work, the videos that he offered in pre-work before pre-cohort, I definitely I think had I dove more deeply in that, I think I would have had a stronger foundation. And I found my attention span, I think, has been crippling me. It's been like, and my mental bandwidth for focus has been redlining this entire time.
I get that.
Burnout is tough, John.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
And it's super tough too because our schedules right now are this 8 hours a day of class plus homework, and if you can knock out the homework pretty fast or in that lab time, then great. But if you can't, like we're talking, what? I think the average expectancy was supposed to be 4 hours of homework. So the thing is supposed to be, sometimes it takes longer. John, I know you're no stranger to that.
Speaking of my life, man. My life.
You have that 5 days a week plus, I don't know, I think probably 6 hours total expected of homework on the weekend. You're talking, what's that, 66 hours a week just right there? That's 26 hours more than you're probably going to get at a standard 9 to 5. So, you're already sort of dancing with the devil in terms of burnout right there. But and then luckily we have the excuse of like we're students, so we don't have to deal with like imposter syndrome quite yet. But I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting there.
It's creeping up. I mean, I'm watching it. I'm hurtling towards the imposter syndrome now. I'm as the closer we end to the cohort. I actually had some of this experience before this, but now I think this will be magnified. But I think so many times where if I'm interviewing, I think this will be more so later. But it's like, how do I properly describe what I've done, and how do I properly describe my capability and experience? We've only been doing this for a few months. Some have more experience, some have less, but it's okay, I've been doing this for 3 months. I know, hire me now. Let me prove myself. It's like, how do you? It's so funny. Like I wouldn't trade off the difficulty or the demand that this course has had. I expected that and I got it, but the imposter syndrome, I think at this point, I'm expecting to just deal with it the rest of my career, to be honest.
I think that's par for the course. The good news is, before I hand the question over to Seb too, is like this is an engineering science, and we're kind of like, when you think about a software engineer, it's sort of like how people in like the 50s thought of like inventors, right? Which were just engineers. What you're judged by is not your pedigree. It's not your years of experience. Your years of experience is an indicator. Your pedigree could be an indicator in terms of you went to a nice school, you went to MIT or something. That's great. But the real test is, can you build stuff? Can you solve problems? And I think this course has, I think the best thing about this bootcamp is like, even though, you may feel like, oh, I know there's so many things I can't build. What you can do is if somebody was like, hey, can you build me a website? You're like, in my sleep.
Right.
Mhm.
You know, somebody's like, hey, I just want this like sleek single page application, maybe a couple easy animations, and I want to like be able to upload pictures to it. It's like, yeah, I'll write a Masonite Express backend in like an hour, and I'll, you know, slap together a front end. Give me 3 days, I'll have your website. It'll be pretty. You know.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I do like that, and obviously, and then from there it's just framing that in a way that shows what you're good at and makes somebody hire you, and then you go from there. You just keep building that skill set, just the eternal student sort of mindset. And yeah, I mean, 10 years down the line, you're gonna be like, God, I'm such a bad coder. As you sit as like a senior front end engineer in like a top tier company making $200K a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Seb, what about you?
There's this.
Oh, go ahead.
My bad. You were gonna ask me. I'm assuming we're gonna talk about the hiring stuff, so I don't want to talk about that for just on my part yet. I would like to answer your original question first. I feel everyone's so smart. Like our class is like, I can't believe I'd be surrounded by these genius. I'm in the room with 2 of them. Like this class is just so ridiculously smart. And every day after class, I cannot help but think, how am I here? I shouldn't be here. I don't know what I'm doing. I have to look at this one document to understand and how to do these things, even though I know it should take loops and loops of practice to like really like not need to reference one like something on Slack, you know. But I can't. Y'all are saying you're hurtling towards it. I've been stuck in the trenches for mad long. It's like I'm just, you know, a little bit of background on me. I was raised with this kind of genius complex. Everyone around me was saying you're a genius constantly, like constantly. And then I get to this point in my life where like that shut down. Like I cannot believe that. I haven't believed that in so long, right?
I completely
like,
feel that.
It just like it cuts you down. David, so when you're expected to be this genius by everyone around you and you're not living up to those expectations, it's hell. It's pain. I don't know if I could say that on here. Yeah. But like it's so tough to get past that step. But I don't know if I'm getting too passionate, but like you have to you have to get past that. And like in my case, I have to just straight up ignore it. Like I can't. I'm in this for 3 months. Then I gotta get a job. Then I gotta be better. You know, I can't let that stop me. So in terms of like what is my fear, my hardest point about this, it's definitely the fact that like you said, we're coding. Donovan, I'm not gonna lie to you. We're not coding for 66 hours. Me and John have probably been coding for like 80 a week.
Yeah.
Like I'd like to think I'm like better than I am, but like it's they lie. They lie. This is like I'm sitting at my computer for at least 10 hours a day, like sometimes 12. Sometimes I have to take sorry, one sec.
No,
you can say what you're gonna say.
No, I was gonna say, you know what, you definitely hit the nail on the head perfectly with that experience. I completely agree with you on the whole like, I completely believe in my my brain and my capacity to learn new things, and this has been humbling. Honestly, it's it's like, wow, I really thought I was smart before this, and now I'm Googling the thing I literally just heard and read maybe 10 minutes ago.
Oh my God,
like,
yes.
Well, what's kind of funny is like, you know, so there's definitely this like perceived like level of ability, and it's pretty much directly, with one student exception in our class, correlates with like previous experience, you know.
Oh my God.
Well, Kenny, I'm gonna get that man on this podcast one of these. I don't understand that man. So
I talk to him every day. He's such a cool dude.
He's so cool. I love Kenny. Kenny has no previous coding experience, and honestly puts a lot of people with coding experience to shame.
Yeah.
It's insane. I don't know how he does it. But
and he thinks he's bad.
He thinks he's bad. I do not understand.
Can't wait till he gets up here so I can bully him. Get me on the episode with him. I'm gonna go crazy.
I'm gonna do it. We're just gonna get a bunch of people yelling at Kenny for 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
But like I'm doing fine with the material. I'm definitely learning a lot. And I'm learning a lot of the stuff is super new to me, but I have enough fundamentals to where I'm like picking it up. But even though I spend less time than is expected on the homework. I'll spend like at most 2 hours on the homework after class. I am, we're so encouraged to like pick up other stuff. Like whenever we were in the Unit 3 project, I was also doing the hackathon with Sarah. And so I'm putting together this one group project, and that's got its own Trello board and its own Scrum system and its own back end and front end, and I'm helping manage that, managing pull requests, and I'm learning how to write fill algorithms for a paint clone. I'm putting together front end. I'm video chatting with Sarah. Like, so even though we didn't actually get assigned enough work to make it, 4 to 6 hours every day, we like sort of somehow absorbed that much into our day, just in terms of like we're all freaked out. We all want to push ourselves, and we all want to like, the one very real thing to me about what we were told at the beginning was you're going to get into this course, get out of this course what you put into it. So if I just sit here and coast, and I just sit here and go, I kind of know this already, or I'm pretty comfortable with this, and I don't push myself, then I know that I'm going to stagnate and fall behind. Which, as opposed to somebody, like you guys have made, I sit there in Discord with you guys and I help you with your homework. Like you guys have made insane progress. But I still think that the MVP for most improved is Tony.
Tony.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be on this episode, but he flaked, so I'm gonna have to drag his ass in here. But just for an individual who started with such a huge struggle in terms of grasping the material and just not getting anything, I know that he and I had like a little breakthrough. Like I spent like 2 hours or like an hour at least going over just functions and if statements and just over and over again, just repeated examples until he sort of got it and he started moving after that. But at the same time, even before that and even after that, he's in the Discord every day. He's doing his homework every day. He's hitting everyone else up like, who tried to do Code Wars right now? Like, he's a monster, and it's so shown in terms of like how much he's improved in terms of his own ability.
Yeah, I think his work ethic is honestly something to be admired. To be honest, like I try to keep up with him. Yeah, like seriously, like I try to keep up with him as like with all the practice, but it's like at least on my end, I've been so tripped up at the homework and sometimes like look, I gotta like prioritize, but I completely like it's impressive to see like how competitive this whole cohort is. None of us, I don't think any of us, as far as we know, want to like kind of sit and okay, I'm good. I think I got it. Like all of us want to be better. We're all trying to lead in some way with, in this cohort, and we're all trying to glean and magnify our experience as best we can. And that's been impressive to be surrounded by so many people who are of that growth mindset. It's honestly, it's been motivating. I think as far as any of my learning experience prior to this, like pure learning experience as a student, I haven't really, it's been rare to be surrounded by this, at least at this level, where you can like, everyone's pushing you. No one's letting you quit. No one's letting you do the bare minimum. And I mean, and I think rightly so. They'd give you shit if you did. I really don't believe in letting your teammates coast and doing the bare minimum. And I'm glad to be surrounded by those who don't either. It's fulfilling.
For sure.
Yeah. I think like I think like that work ethic is crazy. Like especially with Tony, like I've been in college, I've been in high school. There's not a single class I can say I was in where people wanted to just improve and learn these new concepts that will improve them in the future. Like no one's sitting in English like, oh, let me write. Like, I mean, not everyone in an English class is sitting there thinking, oh, I need to be better. I need to learn a better way of phrasing. I need to learn better grammar. It's like it's constant pushing. And I'll get back to the other stuff I was gonna say after Donovan speaks this next one.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think the thing I love most about this class is just how everyone wants to push through it together, and how, like you said, John, like nobody's letting you fail, nobody's letting you not try, nobody's letting you, coast.
Yeah.
Whether you're doing well, whether you're doing poorly, like you're constantly just, and not like a negative way, not like a no, you're not allowed to quit. Nobody's being mean, nobody's being harsh. Everyone's just so excited and so on that drive to learn and improve that it's just infectious.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, yeah, go. So Seb, the next thing I wanted to talk about too was jobs after this. So I know you had a little bit to talk about on that, and the question I kind of wanted to phrase is for you guys, is coding the journey to somewhere you want to go, or is that the destination? Is that the skill you want to have? It's the thing you want to be doing. And with that sort of laying out, like, what are your, like, kind of in the next year goals? What are your in the next 5 years goals? And what's like your end goal kind of a thing?
Yeah. I think like, dude, these questions are so good. I love when I can really expand on a question. What I was going to say is, like, in terms of, in jobs, like, I'm not completely sure. Like, I have a lot of things I want to do in coding, but kind of when I'm interested in something, it begins to branch off. Like, I started music after something traumatic happened to me, and then that venting process began to expand into, I like music, let me figure out what I can do with this. Like, can I make this other genre? Can I rap? It took me, I want to say, 4 years to understand I truly suck. I need to make music that people like. So, and it took me a little while to get to that point. And, that interest started sparking into, I just heard this new thing, let me make something like it. I just heard cyberpunk. I cannot make any type of cyberpunk. Now I can make it, So, like, when it comes to coding, I have, like, I'm a gamer, I'm a music producer, I'm a video editor, and I do other stuff on the side. And I'd say those three are, like, my biggest, like, aspects of what I do and what I'm passionate about. So I'd like to get into the space of game development, but I'd also like to get into this space of music production. And, like, can I create these instruments that I use? Can I make tools that will allow my job to be easier? Can I make this, like, auto mixing tool? Can I make this auto mastering thing, or make something to help others become better at that skill, or make it easier? I have, like, these insane projects that I will make in the future, but I can't make right now because it's been 2 months. So I do think it's a destination and a avenue to get somewhere. I mainly started this because I thought, let me just make some easy money, and then, like, I'll be able to actually focus on music. But no, this is an avenue I can use to make things that will help my music, one, help sustain me, two, get me out of my situation, and also allow me to do new things. This course is a completely mind-opening field that really taught, like, at first I took as a way to make money and do something I'm kind of interested in, but then I realized the applications it can have. So if I had a job as a software developer, or if I had a job as a famous musician, I would not be able to stop any of those things. Like, that's the thing. Like, capitalism really does push us to look for higher numbers, but once you find a field that, like, makes you want to do something, you have something, like, some aspect of you that is able to make money, you don't lose those other things. I'm not going to lose music by getting into coding. It's just a matter of, can I make this one of my passions, and do I have what it takes to make this one of my passions? So I'd like, once again, to answer your question, I'd like to use this as a way to begin to learn to make games, because I'm a gamer. I want to learn how to make music production tools, but I also want to learn how to make things and make video editing so much easier. Because I'm sure most people have video editing experience. I used to be a VFX kid. Like I did it for like 4 years, and it's tough. It's like coding in the sense where everything has to be like direct, and there's a bunch of ways to get that problem solved or get that effect solved. But you kind of, as opposed to coding where everything has to like, no, actually, in the same way, coding has to be like accessible and interesting. Like what you make has to be interesting. But in video editing, you gotta make everything believable. You gotta make sure it looks seamless. There's a bunch of things to think about in every single field that's somewhat creative. This is a very analytical field, but it would be cool to make something for video editors as well.
I love
That's
wonderful, and I totally agree. It's like it, and that's so cool that I'm not the only one who experienced that. I think a lot of the class would agree. It's like something starts as like, yeah, easy money. It'll be fun. It becomes something you just genuinely are excited about, and it's this whole new skill set that and this community and this world that just you're completely blind to. And then like I think one of the funniest things I've thought over the last couple of months is like, I don't know if the world as a whole realizes how much of their modern life is built on one website that is Stack Overflow.
Yeah. If you remove Stack Overflow, access to Stack Overflow, there are suddenly like nobody knows how to do anything. Nobody knows.
Like, if you like just deleted like W3 Schools, Mozilla documentation, and Stack Overflow, the entire rest of the internet would come to a screeching halt in a week.
You'd be stuck. Everyone would be stuck.
And it's just this wonderful, beautiful world, and it is creative, but it is also analytical and procedural, and it's so much fun. Anyway, John, what about you? Like for you, I know you kind of answered a little bit too. Like you really are excited about machine learning and AI, and it's the future, and it's what we're going towards. So you may as well be part of that motion, right?
Yeah, it was interesting because I came here knowing, at least having an idea of what I wanted to be doing. I had a role last year where I had to, and you and we spoke on this a little bit before, but I had a role where I had to digest highly technical and scientific concepts, at least to me. And I mean, they weren't honestly to a lot of people. And, my role was like, well, how can we build an app that answers this capability? How do we build an app that can calculate risk over a flight path? Or how do we, I don't know, like that's one example. Like, how do I calculate risk over flight path or a good example, I want to know what the level of ambient lighting is outside. How do I do that? How can I build something that answers this question for me? So that led me to, and being always having an interest in science and inclination towards science, it led me to really want to answer these scientific problems or answer these questions that science has. So I came here kind of wanting to do that further. That's why the AI ML space is so interesting to me. I have an inclination towards anything having to do with space and satellites, and how we can use that to answer our day-to-day problems. Kind of get at a loss as how to focus my answer. But as far as in the future, I'd like to get into something regarding astronomy. How do we, and again, this is a nebulous idea for me at this point, but I think I'm aiming to get into the space sector at some point. However, in whichever capacity I can get there, it will remains to be seen. But I'd really like to, at some point. I mean, Apollo 13 was my favorite movie for such a long time. If I can, I'm going to space. However, in my lifetime, I'm getting there. So this was kind of my avenue to kind of, in some way, attain that. So as far as what my 5 and 10-year plan is, anything regarding satellite communications or astrology and studying planets, celestial bodies, or studying the cosmos in any capacity, I'd like to kind of dip my hands in. I don't necessarily have an idea of where that role. I mean, I'm not. There's that role won't be open to me for some time, but I think as of now, I will be working towards that incrementally. I know that isn't necessarily an answer, but that's kind of what I have right now.
It's good enough. Like, the idea is to like really find out where everyone's heads are at and what everyone is interested in and where they want to go. And so I think you've answered the spirit of the question beautifully. Word. Okay.
I have one thought about that. About like John is like, you hear John speak and he's such like he has these literally otherworldly goals, and Donovan, you have this wide array of skills and like you have so many options, right? It's crazy how like all of us who I'd say are like somewhat competent in like our own fields and have like this idea of I understand these huge concepts. I want to be able to make something that expands on this. Even people like y'all, like, get stumped up sometimes by this coding thing, Like John just said a bunch of words I don't understand, and he doesn't get this. Like it's kind of crazy how like you can have all these different people with these different thoughts just come into this, like John said earlier, humbling experience. Sometimes John is ridiculously smart, but he'll come to me with a syntax error that is complicated to understand. Sometimes I'll get an error that has something to do with my code, but the error code is like relating to something on the back end, and it's essentially saying something you wrote is making this not work. And it's like, how do I solve that? Like, I'm sure me and John can attest to the struggles of coding like all day. It's really tough, and like sometimes I feel so dumb, but then there are other times where, well, I'd say most of the time I'll feel really dumb, and then I'll be working with my friend who's an established full stack developer, and he'll say like, he'll give me this one question that's like, what do you have to do? So the next step is something like this. What do you have to do to make that work? And I'm like, oh, you just use this. And he's like, yeah, see, like everything you get stuck on, someone prods you a little bit, and then it just makes so much sense. You just sometimes have to like flick yourself in one direction. And when there's not an outside force, that's the biggest thing. Like, how do I do that? Like, how will I actually solve this when I don't know what I don't know? It's so interesting hearing both of you speak and then have these like kind of like in words kind of fundamental roadblocks that are just like, why am I not getting this?
Yeah.
Love it.
Yep.
Well, guys, that's all I really have. So stick around in the call after this. We'll chat a bit, but any closing words before end off for our viewers?
John?
I think, well, I look forward to seeing this build and cultivate, and I look forward to hopping on this again if I can.
Absolutely.
That's what I have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Seb?
Should have asked this before, but should we plug anything? Like, I don't know how this is supposed to work.
For now, let's just chill. Okay. I'm gonna link your guys' LinkedIn and GitHubs in the article and the YouTube video and things like that. So that way,
okay.
You guys, because right now I think the biggest thing to plug is your guys' portfolios and your guys' identities as developers. Because that you guys are new and you're exciting and you're hot. So we're gonna explore the space after that.
Yeah. But yeah, closing thoughts. I don't know what exactly this audience is. I'm assuming it's more towards experienced developers, it sounds. But whoever listens to this, like, understand that coding is very much difficult to many different people. But especially if it's you that's listening to this and think, I don't know if I can get past this, like, you can. It's just a matter of, on a human level, this is hard. And I feel like if we all understand that a little bit better, maybe like it can help our mindset change to instead of like, if you're this sounds like I'm just advocating for myself, but like if you're someone who's in a position where you need more people on your team, like as opposed to just, there is an element that's like you gotta show what you're made of, but also like there's a potential to everyone. So there's a potential to you as a person. You can get past whatever you need. You just need to understand that it's a process to get yourself a little bit closer and to ask yourself those questions, which will make the problem easier.
Yeah. And to add on that, if you want to go far, go together. I've learned that coding is definitely a social exercise. You have to collectively apply your minds to a problem, and many times, you're not alone on figuring out a task. So, I know I struggle with this, but it's okay to ask for that help. And I don't think anyone at any level would ever be above that at this field. So that's been fun to experience. So
absolutely,
yeah,
cool, love it. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much, and thank you guys for watching. We'll see you for the next episode of the Rookery.
Yeah, man.
Peace, y'all.
See you.